Since Enlightenment, we are told that technological progress is good for humanity and it makes people better, faster, smarter, more efficient. But what if the machine isn't serving us anymore? What if we are serving the machine? Paul Kingsnorth, in his book Against the Machine, argues that modern civilization is the machine. Against the Machine is a rewriting of a set of essays Kingsnorth wrote for his Substack, The Abbey of Misrule. These essays were written several years ago, just as the big tech companies and social media platforms were becoming popular and accelerating their hold over society. Kingsworth does not use the book to provide a critique of the actual technology these companies deploy, though he does have a lot of bad things to say about smartphones and social media. Instead, Kingsworth is writing about how these companies and their technologies are taking over our culture. There is no sharp criticism, for example, of how Amazon treats its customers or how Google has monopolized the search space, but instead how he is criticizing how society has adopted these companies' worldviews of how technology should shape our culture. Kingsworth is not simply ranting about this bad tech or this attention grabbing gadget. Instead, he is ranting about how the philosophy of technological progress has overrun society's concepts of living our best lives. It is important to recognize that Kingsnorth considers the machine more than just technology. The machine is a combination of the state and industry where the major controlling interest is growth, with the primary focus being on monetary growth via returns to shareholders. The state encourages this as they receive contributions from these companies, and the companies provide the contributions in return for favorable legislation. See Cory Doctorow's book on enshittification for more on this symbiosis. This emphasis on growth leads to the machine favoring efficiency over meaning. The best way to grow is to learn to be more productive so you can sell more services and or stuff and continue to contribute to the bottom line. The efforts to grow and be more efficient lead the machine to emphasize scale over community. We have seen this occur since the first real intrusion of technology into our society that resulted in the Luddite revolt of the 1800s. The growth of factories for producing cloth goods took the work out of individual homes and put it in impersonal factories where workers could be more carefully watched over. The fruits of the machine's dominance over society have led to some really horrible worker exploitation, such as seen by the way companies like Amazon and Uber use apps to control their workers, where decisions on what jobs to give out to gig workers and what rate of pay they will receive is determined by an algorithm, not by a living, breathing person. More and more, the machine has taken over our lives and standardized it in the same way factories subsidize the work done in them. Before the Enlightenment, humans lived by a particular set of values. Kingsworth lists as the past, where culture comes from, its history and ancestry; people, who a culture is, a sense of being a people; place, where a culture is, nature in its local and particular manifestation; and prayer, where a culture is going, its religion tradition as relates to God and or the gods. Since the Enlightenment, though, humans have veered toward a different set of values. We can call them the four S's if the first ones were called the four P's. They are science, where we come from, a non-mythic version of our creation, think evolution; self, who we are, our highest calling is to serve the self and ensure its longevity; sex, what we do, the highest means of sacral pleasure and an affirmation of individual identity; screen, where we are going, our main sense of distraction and the interface we use to direct us towards the post-human reality of the machine itself. In this case, we're doing that via AI. Giving our moral center over to science has led to where we believe we can come up with a technological solution to any problem. Too much pollution, we can switch to clean energy. Too much poverty, AI is going to increase the number of jobs. We've really given up on caring for other people, especially our neighbors, due to the huge emphasis placed on the self. Politics has become, in many ways, a politics of individuality. This bleeds over into sex, where sex becomes a much too important part of our lives. The screen, which really stands for all digital technology, has completely corrupted our society. The big tech companies spy on us and sell our data while lying to us about the fact that they're doing it. Teenagers become so wrapped up in social media that they don't know how to interact face to face, and the competition of trying to keep up with their friends and influencers is leading to record levels of anxiety and suicide. And the development of AI tools is wrecking the environment wherever a large data center is placed, which then leads to the wrecking of lives of the people living near those data centers. And the growth and development of AI companies has been on the backs of third world countries, trashing their environments and their economies. The old truth was that technological advances led to moral improvements, but the current facts don't bear that out. Society has replaced the human need to seek spiritual truths with the quest for fame and money. We see this clearly in how social media has affected has affected the people who own the platforms as they work to make more money by manipulating their users by the users themselves, who find self-satisfaction in presenting themselves as influencers, trading integrity for views and sponsorship dollars. Kingsworth also blames the machine for the shift from people living in rural places to a concentration of people in cities. This started back in the late 1700s and 1800s, especially in England, Kingsnorth's home country, as textile making entrepreneurs mechanized the trade and priced individual weavers and other workers out of the business, forcing these workers to move to the cities to work in factories as those jobs were the only jobs available. What we lost from this was the emphasis on family life. In the past, people worked in their homes and grew food on their own land. As the machine grew in power, people were forced to give up this way of life if they wanted any way of life at all. Mechanization and dependence on the machine took away people's heritage, their traditions, their local customs and culture, and their need for spiritual fulfillment. When you're toiling away at a job for way too many hours a week, you simply don't have the time or the energy to spend it on faith and family. While Kingsworth is not entirely wrong, the progress humanity has made since the Enlightenment is not all bad. Science has given us the ability to cure diseases that in the past led to early death. Technology allows us to be in touch with people who live far away. Progress in societal norms has led to the abolition of slavery and, in general, better treatment for most peoples, though there are exceptions to this, which have been caused by the machine. These examples have led to what Dr. O calls enshittification, and you can view some of my videos on that book and another book called The Empire of AI by Karen Au for more in-depth explanations of how big tech exploits its workers. In general, though, life is much better for us now than it was in pre-Enlightenment days. What needs to happen is we need to determine and enforce limits on how the machine affects us. We need to say no to allowing AI to take our jobs. We need to set limits on when children can start using social media. We need to limit the ability of big tech platforms to monopolize their markets. As consumers, we need to push back against companies that are taking advantage of us. We just don't need to surrender to the machine and let it take us over. Kingsworth's viewpoint is important now, even if I believe he takes it way too far. When you read him, you sometimes believe he wants us to revert to civilization as it was prior to 1800. Of course, we can't go back to that way of life, nor do we really want to. But we are seeing the machine becoming more powerful. From the development of AI that can do many of the things people now get paid for, we see big tech companies use algorithms to exploit their workers by making them accept poor working conditions and pay rates that are sometimes sub-poverty level. The few companies who make up the machine are becoming more powerful, and the state won't fight against their power for political reasons. For all these reasons, the viewpoint expressed by Kingsworth is very important, and we should be considering it. In my opinion, as I just stated though, if we just set limits on how much we're willing to let the machine run our lives, we can overcome the machine, and that's really what Kingsworth is saying. Humans need to limit how the machine affects our lives. So thanks very much for listening, and as always, If you enjoy this content on book reviews about technology and society, please like and subscribe. And as always, thanks to SlidesGo for providing the template for this presentation.